Now we want to welcome to the Jimmy Star Show with Ron Russell, writer, director, actor, producer, Carl Gottlieb. Hello and welcome to the show.
Welcome to me here, being here.
There you go. Yeah, that was okay. I'm going to introduce you, starting with my cool, outrageous man about town co-host, Mr. Ron Russell.
Hey there. I hear you can do a few things.
Yes.
I've heard you do some simple little nothing things, like Jaws, and nothing like that stupid movie Jaws. What did it make? $2, Jaws?
Yeah.
It was such a flop.
Half and a half and all the tuna you could eat. I was if I was a Jeopardy category, it would be his hits begin with a J.
There you go. Oh, that's funny. So then we've got the man behind.
Seriously, how much money did that movie make?
Oh, I don't know. Adjusted for inflation, it's one of the 10 top grossing pictures of all time. So that puts it up in the billion-dollar, class.
And it still holds up today.
Yes, surprisingly. I mean, there's, so as I'm fond of saying, it's always Shark Week somewhere.
Right.
Absolutely.
Look at Sharknado. They all copied Jaws, but it never will be like Jaws. Jaws was the best.
So we've got the man behind the boards, Mr. Chad Murphy.
Welcome to the show, Carl. Jaws is one of the best movies ever made.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And then we've got a chat room from people in countries like all over the place. So say hi to everybody in the chat room.
Hello, chat roomers.
And I think this is something that you're going to like, too. So when I was talking to Chad before the show, and I said he wrote the screenplay for Jaws, and he says, yeah, but you know what else he did? One of my favorite fun movies to watch is Caveman, and he wrote and directed Caveman. And I was like, oh, my gosh, that's so cool. So, yes, he also wrote Caveman. Chad, tell him what you liked about Caveman.
Lana, Zug Zug Lana.
Oh, yes. For those of you unfamiliar with the movie Caveman, we've made up a cave dialogue, with all made-up words. And Zug, or Zug Zug, which is to make love, is actually the only real word in the whole movie, and it's Tibetan. It's Tibetan colloquial slang for doing it. Zug Zug.
You gotta love it. And you guys, the movie had Ringo Starr and Dennis Quaid and Shelley Long and a whole list of really cool people who nowadays are like super duper duper stars. I don't know if they were big stars then or not, but they are superstars now.
They were big. Yeah, they were pretty big then. Not superstars, but they were famous stars.
You gotta love it.
Years ago, when they did a science fiction movie, and you were supposed to speak like you're from Mars, they ran it backwards. So you would, they did, like, I am here from Mars, and when it goes backwards, it's that's what the Martians say.
You gotta love
anyway,
it.
I want to just get to you about Jaws. I mean, my God, how do you feel when people say to you, "You did the screenplay"? You've got to bust buttons. You've got to be so proud of yourself, because that was a hell of a piece of writing.
Well, it's become an iconic film. At the time, it was a job. It was just something we had to do. It was tough to get through. It was a difficult location. The script was evolving as we worked every day. Actors were ad-libbing lines. The local actors couldn't say the lines, so I'd have to make up something else on the spot on the set. So it's this kind of a hodgepodge. To this day, there is no existing real script of Jaws, because it was in such a state of flux. The closest thing that comes to the real script is the editor's lined script, which was, updated every day. But in terms of pride, after 40 years, you kind of get used to saying, yes, thank you, I know it's a good film, yes. Thank you, by the way, Ron, for not saying, as everybody else has for 43 years, after I saw that film, I didn't go in the water I didn't swim in the ocean, I didn't go in the pool. People say I was afraid of the water ever since that movie. And I say, well, your chances of being bitten by a shark are about the same as being hit by lightning. Actually, the odds are better that you'll be hit by lightning before you're bitten by a shark.
He doesn't go in the ocean anyway.
I don't go in the before I saw Jaws, I never went in the ocean, because I lived on Long Island, and Jones Beach was our beach, and it was famous for red ocean, and it was famous for horseshoe crabs that stuck up with their thing. We had all kinds of things that you could hurt yourself in the water. So I've always been a swimming pool person, never an ocean person. That's why I loved your writing. Now, difficult, very difficult to write about a shark that is the star of the movie. I mean,
Yes.
without sounding like a moron or a child. How did you do it? What technique, what angle did you use to make this shark so fierce? And tell me it's because we never saw him truly.
Yes, we had mechanical issues with the shark. It had never been tested in salt water. When we got to Martha's Vineyard and put it in salt water, it malfunctioned. It had to be repaired every day. Even on the days it was working, it had to go back to the shop and be repainted and refitted every night. So given the difficulties of the shark, what we decided, Stephen and I were both fans of a movie called The Thing.
Great movie.
Loved it.
Yeah, and in The Thing, you don't see The Thing until like 45 minutes into the film, and it's like a 70-minute black and white horror movie from the 50s. So we said, let's take it, page from that playbook, and if we can't show the shark, let's show the dreadful effects of the shark. So you've got that opening kill scene, which is probably one of the most horrifying scenes in which the assailant is invisible. It's just a force underwater. And then later, the guys on the dock, the whole dock is pulled out into the ocean. And again, you don't see the shark. You see a fin, you see a little bit of the shark. And it's quite a while. And in terms of the shark going, with its teeth, you don't see that until quite late in the movie when the guys are already at sea. It was so writing for the shark was easy. You didn't write. You just wrote, effects.
When we moved to Palm Springs, we moved here in February, and right when we had just gotten our TV turned on, like we watched a documentary about the making of Jaws, which I'm pretty sure you're in it. And it talked about the salt water and putting the shark in the salt water. It was a fascinating documentary, and so it's kind of cool that we just recently saw that, and now you're on the show.
Getting back to the not showing the shark, I don't know how old you are, but I remember as a little boy listening on the radio at night to Inner Sanctum.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see a thing. Our imagination saw it. So when we heard the door creak open and the footsteps walked, we were terrified because we didn't know what it was. And I've always said that. In acting, it's better not to speak. It's better to use emotion because then people can feel what you're feeling. Today, with the blowing up and the exploding movies and all the CGI, what do you think about that?
Oi. That's all I can say. Oi.
Oi is the best answer.
Yeah, they're sucking all the air and money out of the business with prequels, sequels, reboots, remakes. Nobody's got the courage of their convictions to put a lot of money into a new film. And when they do, they're rewarded. Iron Man and Black Panther, that they show what the genre is capable of. And then you go to, Transformers 9 and, the...
they get terrible as they go along.
In November...
There's something, this is relevant to Jaws, but it's also relevant to these big, stupid effects movies.
It's going back.
Wait, let him finish.
Iron Law of sequels. Only the last one loses money.
Yes,
absolutely.
That's why we have Police Academy 12.
They're going back to the not seeing. In November, I start a movie where I can't talk about it, but the thing that attacks is very rarely seen, but it's heard.
Mm-hmm.
When it is seen, the camera shoots from behind me to the open mouth of the thing that's devouring me. And that's about most of what you see in the film. So that's going to be a scary movie because it's going to let your imagination say, oh, my God, I hear the thing walking. I see it. That's what it's all about. It's called movie making. It's not called documentaries.
Yeah, that's why, Stephen is such a
he's brilliant.
In pre-Jaws days, when he did that film about the truck, Duel.
Good movie.
The closest you ever came to seeing the driver was, legs and boots.
And scary as all hell. He is absolutely probably the most brilliant in the business. I've never seen anything of his that I didn't like. So, but he's Steven Spielberg. Please give me a break.
So he's allowed a few mistakes.
Even the ones that they said that weren't any good, though, I liked. Like
Even-
AI, they didn't they panned that one, but I liked it.
Even the bad ones were better than some of the best ones that are out today.
Steven is one of those filmmakers, like the Coen brothers or Steven Soderbergh. Whatever they do, even if they fail, it's more interesting than anything else that's on the screen. And you just wish that the studios and the financiers would fund a few more interesting big budget movies, because now you have to make a movie for $150 million, which means effects and explosions and chases and fires and creatures, or you make it for $1.2 million with everybody taking a cut and pay and struggling through a difficult location with no guarantee of distribution, and that's an indie feature. And boy, there's nothing in between. And there used to be lots of $20 and $30 million movies with stars that we wanted to see. Rob Reiner says that if he had given the same cast at the peak of their powers, Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson, he couldn't get that movie made today. Courtroom drama, too talky.
Yes. And that's the stuff I like.
horrible.
We actually saw Operation Finale yesterday.
Fabulous.
And it was a
film.
great movie, and it didn't have any explosions. It had a great story, and it was a great
and it was
movie.
a story that had to be told.
Yeah.
Definitely a story that had to be told. For the morons that say it didn't exist, that there were not 6 million Jews killed by Adolf Hitler and his accompanists. So that's bullshit.
Great movie. I recommend it. So
Love it because it was an intelligent film.
But
Wait, hang on one second. But unfortunately, today with the millennium, they haven't got millennials. They haven't got brains. They have cell phones, and all they do is talk on the cell phone. They don't want to read. They don't want to hear. They don't want to look. They want explosion because you know why? They're on their phone. Explosion. Oh, look at the head flew off. Hello, Joe. How are you?
Yeah, imagine watching Lawrence of Arabia on a cell phone.
Oh, please.
Yes.
Give me a break.
no way. So
I
besides
can't even watch it on television.
hang on. So besides Jaws, oh look at the
Oh,
kitty.
yeah.
Your kitty cat.
Hi, kitty.
Hi, pussy.
That's the kitty. And now I'm
Cutie.
going to throw her to the floor so she doesn't intrude on our work.
So you have Jaws, but like you've written all kinds of things. I'm going to do some little bragging for you. You also wrote Jaws 2, The Jerk with Steve Martin, which is a freaking phenomenal
I love that movie. You wrote that
movie.
and you're a comedy writer as well.
We already
Yeah.
we talked about Caveman already. Dr. Detroit, which is a movie I liked a lot. Jaws 3D, the screenplay for Jaws 3D. And then you were a writer on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, which, believe it or not, when I was a senior in college, they played my homecoming. Was the Smothers Brothers came? So I saw you were on you wrote like 25 episodes or something of that, or something like really big.
I wrote on the final season, the one we got the Emmy.
There you go. The one you got the Emmy. I love that. And then, so you're a writer, but you're also an actor, and you were in Jaws. You were in Clueless, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, because I used to be a fashion designer. Into the Night, Johnny Dangerously, The Sting 2, The Jerk, Mork and Mindy,
Serious?
Laverne and Shirley, Cannonball, Chico and the Man, Jaws, Beretta, The Bob Newhart Show, Something Evil. You were in the MASH movie.
Yes.
And the MASH movie had Donald Sutherland, Sally Kellerman, Robert Duvall, Elliot Gould, Tom Skerritt, and you were in I Spy. So, like, you've got some resume on both sides of it, like the front of the camera and behind the camera.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. It's been a long and happy career. I can't complain. I've been cut out of movies by some of the best directors. I was in. Yeah, I worked for Michelangelo Antonioni in Zabriskie Point, and I'm cut out of that movie. And I was in. I had a larger part in the Altman film Long Goodbye, but now I'm just an extra in the crowd scene. And Carl Reiner cut me out of Oh God, but I survived. I survive in a long courtroom shot where I'm featured prominently because my character was supposed to appear later in the show. So when they composed the shot in the courtroom with a crowd, I'm featured. But then I never return. So there's just this guy in a courtroom, and you're going, why are they focusing on him? And I'd say, well, because it's me, obviously. But that's not really the reason.
I love it, though.
I've been cut out of some films too, but they were parts that I'm glad they cut out because the dialogue was terrible. And I was supposed to be a tough cop from Brooklyn with my Brooklyn accent. And they gave me lines like, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. It's not nice." Now, people in Brooklyn don't talk that way. You know that. It's knock it off, I'll break your head. You know, that kind of stuff. So I'm glad they cut that out. Now, listen, do you know who Stan Zimmerman is?
Refresh my memory.
Stan Zimmerman wrote for the Golden Girls. He's written for. Also, now he's writing for the Gilmore Girls.
He wrote for Gilmore Girls. He wrote the Brady Bunch movies.
Could you do me a favor?
Sure.
Could you find him, or I'll have him find you? Stan Zimmerman has written the most fabulous show in the world. It's called Silver Foxes. It's about 4 elderly gay men who live in Palm Springs because the nursing home they went to didn't want gay men. It's based on the Golden Girls. It will be hilarious. It will show the world what happens to gay men when they get older. He needs to get it up and running. For some reason, producers or somebody...
The networks don't want it, but it just got sent out right now.
They're a little afraid of it because the subject matter is about gay people. This is going to take gay people out of the shadows where we are, and we don't care for it. It'll bring to the world that we are people, just like Hispanics, blacks, Jews, everybody. Everybody else had a shot at it except gay people. They're still in the shadows, in the closet. So I'm appealing to everyone. You've got tremendous clout, my friend. I mean, your clout is like not to be believed. You could call your shots. I mean, please. I mean, I'm fainting. There's only one thing you did that I didn't care for.
Uh-oh.
The one that showed the Smothers Brothers?
Oh, the Smothers Brothers.
I thought they were stupid. I never liked the Smothers Brothers. No, I really couldn't stay. They annoyed me. They irked me. But everything else you've done, my friend, if I had a hat, I'd take it off. You are spectacular. Not only have you written the horror of Jaws, but you did a comedy that I love, a movie that I watch whenever it's on television. So may I say personally, without blowing smoke up your ass, because I don't do that, I think you're great. I really think you're a talented, great writer. So if you could help me in any way and help all of us, it would be a great achievement.
Silver Foxes, yeah. Okay.
Silver Foxes,
which Stan Zimmerman is doing it, and once it's on TV, it's going to be a tremendous hit, as big as the Golden Girls. So
yeah, and the beauty of television now. First of all, television, you're seeing the best writing that's being done for entertainment now is being done in television. The best writers in television. There's like 500 scripted series on the air right now. You can't see everything, and the beauty of that is that if there's a show, an audience can find it. It's not easy. It's not like the 3-network universe, but a good show that can be brought in on a budget that can attract an audience, doesn't have to be a blockbuster audience. We've got, you can be optimistic about Silver Foxes, especially since the new generation of executives and the studio guys and gals especially are sympathetic and understanding of gender issues. So it's not quite the desert that it used to be. So
no, but can I ask you something? I would love for you to write for them, because your style of writing is incredible. I mean, I know what you write. I know your comedy. And I think if you wrote episodes with Stan, it's got to be a hit, because we need great talent like yours. Good writers. Not these crappy writers that, one-story guys and you never hear from them again. You know the kind I mean. They hit luckily on some subject matter and then they go dry. No. A series, you have to be a writer with a brain and a humor. Yeah. And I'm flabbergasted to know that you did Jaws.
He also did that.
No, but
look behind you,
Jimmy. He did Jaws and a comedy.
Okay,
how do you go from a horror to a comedy and be successful in both things? It's amazing.
Well, look at so on the shelf right there is the Jaws log. Tell us what the Jaws log is.
When the movie came out, there was a plan to do a coffee table book with 1/3 written by the producers, 1/3 written by the novelist, and 1/3 written by the director, all about the process of making Jaws with nice stills from the studio. And Stephen asked me to write his third of the book because he was very busy prepping Close Encounters. So I agreed to that. And then they called up and they said, well, nobody else has time, or everybody's making so much money from the movie. we need a book about the movie. And you were there. You won't have to do extensive research. You lived through most of it, and everybody who was on the picture is still around. You can talk to everybody. So I went off, and just before the movie was released, I finished a book called The Jaws Log, which was a book about the making of a movie. And then the movie came out, and then the book came out right simultaneously. And the next thing we knew, the movie was a phenomenon, and the book went through 23 printings and sold 2 million copies or so, and stayed in print. And there's a 25th anniversary edition, there's a 30th anniversary edition, there's still another edition that's out, that's the one that's over my left shoulder there. It's still the best-selling book about the making of a movie ever, any movie. There've been books about Avatar and Titanic and other big moneymakers, but they haven't done what the Jaws Log has done. And I think that's because it was a personal, direct, and informative book. It was more about how the movie was made. It wasn't just, as told to. So I'm very proud of that book. I've written a couple other books, but that's the one that...
Can I clear something up? Because I'm old. I'm 78 years old. My brain doesn't always function. You wrote this book?
Yeah, the Jaws Log.
Wait, hang on. You alone wrote this book?
Yes, of course.
So when you step in shit, you really step in it.
Yes.
I mean, what kind of success? How many printings did it go to?
Well, it sold over 2 million copies.
No, I want to know how many printings.
23 or 24.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I have never heard of 23 printings in my life from anybody's book.
And that was when it was a mass market paperback for $1.50 or $1.95.
Did you believe 23 printings, Jimmy? Most people flip out they had 5. They think, oh, well, I'm in my 5th printing. I saw 23 printings.
If I can tell you an anecdote that's completely unrelated, but is about printings and book sales, my cousin is a publisher in Algonquin Press. And she had a modest first novel that she printed that sold, they printed 2,500 copies, sold out. And then she gets a call one day. I'll try to speed this up. She gets a call from a lawyer, says, I'm sending over a non-disclosure agreement. As soon as you sign it, we can talk. She says, who is this? What is this? And non-disclosure agreement shows up. She signs it, sends it back. The lawyer calls, says, fine, I can now tell you, Oprah is going to do your book. Oprah has selected your book as an Oprah book. And the publisher goes, great, so I guess we're going to be printing more books. And then the lawyer says, this doesn't come without a price. You have to agree to print 500,000 copies.
Holy shit.
And
how can you make how can you make an agreement like that?
And the lawyer, that's exactly what my cousin said. And the lawyer said, you're going to have to trust us. This is what, and we have a couple of other conditions. You have to ship the book in boxes without the title on it, just Oprah 27, Oprah and a show number, so they know when to put it in the stores. But we wouldn't ask you to do it if we weren't confident that you could do it.
It was going to sell and it'd all sell.
So what was the outcome?
It sold, 500,000 or 600,000 copies. They sold everything, and she was flabbergasted, and she had to call the author and say, we're going back to press. And he said, oh, great, another 5,000 copies? She said, no, sit down. You're going to need a lawyer and an accountant and a tax expert, because we're shipping 500,000 copies. And they sold. So go figure.
All because
Good for
of
you.
Oprah, all because of Oprah.
Yeah.
Well,
If
Oprah's
Oprah-
very
if-
powerful.
Well, Oprah has that. Was it Book of the Day, Book of the Month?
Yeah, book of them.
And if she says if she says your book is it, I mean it's it. So now tell me something.
Sure.
What's new? What are you going to give me so I can enjoy some more of your work?
Okay. Well, I'm working. You might appreciate this. My mother-in-law, who is now deceased, but lived to be 100. Her brother was a songwriter who ran away, stowed away on a ship, went to Auckland with his vaudeville partner. They were caught on board, jailed, taken off in Auckland, New Zealand, where they claimed the It's a musical set in vaudeville in Australia in 1916. They were two Americans who ran away to get a job. They couldn't get a job in New York, so they said, "Well, the British Empire is in a war. All the young men are, fighting. We got a chance." So the captain of the ship where they stowed away caught them because they were Hebrews from New York. He thought they were German spies. So he radioed to New Zealand, "I've got German spies on board." And they took them off the boat, took them to court. They were described as Hebrews in the press clippings. The Jewish community of Auckland sent lawyers. They appeared in the courtroom. They said, "We're not spies, we're entertainers." They played the piano. A guy stood up in the courtroom and said, "Your Worship, if you will release these men, I'll put them on. My name is Benjamin Fuller. I own the Empress Theater in downtown Auckland."
Is that funny?
He billed them as the stowaways, because that was all their press was about, these stowaways. And they killed. They were held over. They did 6 weeks. Then they went on the road and they toured all over Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, which was the 3 countries you could get to by boat in those days, and had a career. And he started writing songs, Uncle Lou. And among the songs he wrote was "Are You Lonesome Tonight?", which was released in 22 and introduced by my mother-in-law, whose picture is on the sheet music.
Yay!
You're kidding. That's a good story. Now, were these guys connected romantically or just friends?
No, they were just, just a couple of guys,
Buddies.
Their billing was handman and cook and handman, song boys from Songland.
That's fabulous.
But they made all their money as the stowaways.
Did you get a green light on it?
No, we're out circulating it now. I'm about to do a rewrite on a Vietnam era film, and then I have a film that's at Sony in turnaround called Wolf and Blood, which I wrote long before Walking Dead. But it's about it's a buddy cop film. Charlie Wolf and Virginia Bloodworth, 2 detectives who are thrown together. Each has a guilty secret. She's a vampire, he's a werewolf.
Wow, that's up Jimmy's alley.
That's the stuff I like.
They become cops because they want to be on the good side. They don't want to be evil. He takes sick days and goes and runs in the woods and kills coyotes. And she pilfers from a blood bank where she volunteers, so she doesn't have to bite people. And they fight crime. And the criminal they're chasing, as it turns out, is from the dark side. So their existential dilemma is, do they give in to their werewolf and vampire nature in order to catch and trap this guy, which they do ultimately. And I love the ending because instead of falling from a great height or being consumed by fire.
Don't tell us the ending. No, I'm serious. You're going to ruin it if you tell us the ending. You don't want to do that, do you?
I do, because it's not a spoiler. It sets up the sequels. When they finally get the bad guy, they kill him and eat him.
There you go. First of all, that's my kind of movie because I love that stuff. So that's totally like up my alley, and I can see. Actually, I see a cool market for that. That's a cool story. So I think people will dig that.
Wolf and Blood, Sony Pictures.
Okay. One other question.
Sure.
You got 3 minutes.
Yeah, we have a few minutes. When and where do you get your ideas and your how you're going to go about doing it?
Well, a friend of mine, a writer named Charlie Houck, once said this and I wrote it down and it's on my bulletin board. It says, "Ideas abound. Everybody has them. It's the words that cause all the problems. You got to pick the right ones and put them in the right order."
It's true.
Ideas are everywhere. I mean, you see a derelict on the street, and you go, "Well, how did that guy get there? What was?" Because he was a little baby. He had a mommy. He went to school. Same with these crazy old bag ladies or cat ladies. They were once young women, and something happened.
This is scary. I wrote about this on Facebook today about they were babies, somebody's child, these street people. We cannot just do what we do to them. We have to help them. These are human beings. And I wrote exactly what you said. Isn't that funny? It's like, hello, we're on the same wave.
Hang on, because we've only got like 2.5 minutes.
Well, I think you're a great guest, and I really want you to come back because you're just an intelligentsia for a change instead of some of the...
You look very much like my cousin Paul Gottlieb, the publisher, who's now deceased. But you bear a striking resemblance to him.
Everybody always tells him Tony Curtis.
Tony Curtis.
No,
All my
look
life.
You look like Paul Gottlieb.
There you go.
That's
so
good.
I have a lot of people in the chat room. Do you actually go on Twitter at all? Because there's 2 accounts that look like they're yours, and they want to know if you're either one of them.
I'm probably both of them. I'm the Carl Gottlieb one, and the other one is Jaws Writer, right?
Yeah, Jaws Writer. Yeah.
I never look at that, but I do follow some people on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not I don't post actively. It's tough enough to post on Facebook to keep up. Otherwise, you can spend your whole life,
So
Tell me about
the
it.
Carl_Gottlieb one then is you, right?
Yeah.
That way, there you go, everybody. So that's the one that it is, so you can do it. And everybody definitely needs to see Jaws. And is the Jaws log still available for people to?
Sure. Wherever books are sold, they'll order it for you if you don't have it. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. Everywhere you want to look, there's
How many years ago was this Jaws? 30, 40 years ago? 40 years ago, and it's still selling?
This is the 43rd year, my friend. 43 years, and I wrote it 44 years ago because
you're better than Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
I'm serious. I think you produce more stuff than Gone with the Wind. Now listen, when you see in your email or on your Facebook something from Stan Zimmerman, please open it and read it, because I'm going to tell Stan when we get off the air to contact you.
Absolutely.
If you can help us.
So we want to thank Steve Joyner, because he's the one who made the introduction for me to use to get you up on the show.
Yeah,
we want to thank you, Steve, and we want to thank you for coming on the show. And when if any of the new books or anything coming out in movies, or you got anything going on, you just email me and we'll get you back on again.
You come back. You're a very fascinating guest, and you have what to say. You definitely have what to say.
Thank you so much. Have a good one, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
And enjoy the holiday anyway. I'm going to.
I will.
Okay.
Thanks, Carl. Bye-bye.
Very happy day of atonement.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So thanks for tuning in. Chat room, everybody. I hope you guys had a good time. Our guests were great today. And Ron was great today, and he's so gorgeous. And Chad, thank you very much.
And I only said 5 of them or 6 of them.
And next week, we've got great guests. We have Kiki Ebsen coming on, and Max Wassa. So we got a great show next week, you guys, and we'll talk to you guys later. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you next week. Bye.
I'm your one I wanna be. Jimmy Star's new celebrity. We'll take you out to Jimmy Stars. He'll dress you right. You'll feel like a star. We'll hook you up. Now you look sexy. Your game is tight. Gonna get laid tonight. You need Jimmy Star. Jimmy Star. You need Jimmy Star. Jimmy Star.
One day I was walking down the street. My mate come up to me and said, "Hey mate, wanna go to a party?"